Hi, and welcome back to Dirtbag Baseball Talk, everybody. Great to be here. As you know, last week we were talking with Pete O'Brien of Mind Baseball about the why, the concept of the basically sharing his story with us on how it came to be Mind Baseball bats, the compilation of trials and tribulations along the way, and bringing it all to fruition at the end of the day, and still a new bat or new business in the bat world, but a lot of history in the knowledge of the bat making world and stuff like that. So the name is new maybe in Mind Baseball, but the O'Briens aren't new to the bat industry at all. So and also the simplicity and the beauty of how they keep Mind Baseball bats being created and move forward, and also the uniqueness of their warranty in the industry as well. So as we promised you last week, we're going to follow up this week. We're going to follow up today with Lance. I've got Lance on with us, and we're going to be talking about those, getting down to the nuts and bolts and those great questions that come out and have come out to us on, really, what am I looking at? How do I compare bats in the wood bat industry? What makes it different? What makes it unique? And then Lance Stahl's going to share some of those other hard-hitting, it's almost like misconceptions out there and questions that he gets. So, but on that note, we're excited to have him here. And hey, Lance, welcome to the show. Welcome to the nation, brother.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. I'm excited to share a lot of my knowledge. I try not to get too nitty gritty with it. I don't want to, bore people off the screen and take them back to a science chemistry class from 15 years ago, but I'll share a little bit of my knowledge in a not dumbed down version, but a way that's easy to understand, because there's a lot of misconceptions on wood in the industry and baseball bats in particular. So, we're, like you said, relatively new to the game. And so we don't have 100 years of experience doing this and just ingrained philosophies and beliefs. We kind of came into it and we see things and hey, that doesn't seem right. So we're going to call it out a little bit, and we're going to do things a little bit differently over here at Mind Baseball.
Well, I think that's what we love about it, and Dirtbag's watching us, so that's what we're all about. It's trying to educate you and empower you with each step of the way with that product. In this case, a baseball bat. Hey, you know what? This is the big part of your game. I mean, your glove and your bat. That's what you go to sleep with every single night or whatever. And that, so you better be making the right decisions, because when you go into a store, you just see a lineup of wood. And it's, it's not about who has the most marketing dollars that means it's the best bat. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So, you know what, Lance, I love the tutorial that you have. And so let's start right there, if you don't mind. If you want to bring that up, that'd be great. Share it, and you can talk about the difference between your maple, your ash, your birch, and your beech.
Yeah, so I'm sure Pete gave you a nice long history. He's pretty good at summarizing things. I'll give you a very short summary from my experience of the history of Mind Baseball and how we got into beech bats, right? So obviously he mentioned we're in the woodworking business. We were fortunate enough to find out about this company called Manelli. They're the largest paintbrush handle in rifle stock manufactured in the entire world. And when they got to a certain point where they couldn't grow too much because they had almost market share, they decided to look and say, okay, what can we use our expertise and technology to create a baseball bat, right? And so luckily, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have hundreds and hundreds of years of doing this like some of the other guys. Good for them for setting the standard. But we looked at it and we said, all right, what makes a baseball bat perform better? What makes a ball exit the baseball bat faster and further? And it's the same thing that you learned in middle school. It's force equals mass times acceleration. So, and then the other aspect of that nobody talks about is sweet spot, where you impact the baseball in the sweet spot. So that's it. It's the density, it's your swing speed whenever you impact the ball, and it's the sweet spot where you hit that baseball on the bat. So we looked at it and just said, all right, what's the best wood species for that? We haven't been using hickory or maple or ash or anything. We're going at this fresh. What is the best wood species based on that knowledge? And everything that we've looked at, we truly believe, no doubt in our mind, that European beechwood is better than maple, birch, or ash for baseball bats, because it has, and I'll go into this, it's got a best combination of density, dent resistance, bending strength, and stiffness of all the wood species out there. So actually, if you want, I can share a screen, and for those of you guys who can see video, I'll show you this. But let me start out with this one right here. You can kind of see this table where it compares European beech wood to maple, birch, and ash, and just how it compares on all of them, right? And I can get into each one of these a little bit more, but across the board, European beech is top of the line in density, top of the line in dent resistance, top of the line in stiffness, and just behind birch in bending strength. So that's, in a nutshell, before we get into the nitty gritty of all these topics, this is what it's all about. We looked at it and this is straight off of a wood database site that just compares wood. You can look this up on your own, go to wooddatabase.com, and you can find this information. You can compare out any kind of wood species you want. And so when we looked at all the wood species, we found, these are the 3 or the 4 aspects that go into a baseball bat that we think are important, that wood can actually translate over. And in these 4 categories, beech outperforms maple, birch, and ash. So you want me to get into each one of these a little bit more, Kirk?
Yeah, sure. I think it's great just to go over it with them, Lance, and help educate for sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I can talk. I can speak a monologue for an hour on this kind of stuff. So stop me whenever you want. So the one that we always talk about is density. It's the easiest for us to explain to customers. I think people understand density best. It's basically you take a certain volume of something and how much mass, how much weight is in that specific volume. And European beech, as you can see from this little graph here, is slightly higher than maple in terms of density. Maple's always been considered the densest wood for baseball. It's the gold standard. You hear about rock hard maple, sugar maple. Beech is slightly higher. And the reason that we say slightly higher is important, some guys see this chart and it's like, well, it's only 5 kilograms per cubic meter more. It's a big point that European beech is only slightly higher than maple because you can't go too much higher in the density scale, right? Like, for example, everybody knows that their hickory was used forever, right? But why did it go out of fashion? Hickory went out of fashion because it is significantly higher than any of these in density. If you're looking at this, European beech is 710 kilograms per cubic meter. Hickory is about 720. So it's got a lot more density to it. But the problem is when you have such high density, you can only turn a very specific size back from that. Because if you think about it, like a 243 is a certain bat size, right? But if you have all of this mass in your barrel, that means you're going to have a thinner handle. And if you have a thinner handle, what happens? You're going to have more bat breaks, right? So you can't go too far on this scale to you can't just pick the wood with the highest density. That's, there's woods out there that have, 800, 900 kilograms per cubic meter, because you can't turn a baseball bat from that. So even though it's slightly more than maple, that 5 kilograms per cubic meter could be the difference between a warning track ball and one that clears the fences. And so that's, we're comparing little small minuscule differences here, but really this could be the difference, between a couple more home runs per season for you. So this is the big one. This is the one that we talk about the most. It's the easiest to understand. Density, mass. European beech performs better than maple, birch, or ash there. Next one, dent resistance. This is if you really know wood, you know dent resistance. It's called Janka hardness. That's the technical term for it. And it's basically just they take a 1/2 inch steel ball, and it's how much force is required to embed it into that wood, like halfway through it, right? So again, slightly more here, European beech versus maple. But we do like to think about this in a certain way. You see birch way down here, and this is, you want to talk about misconceptions. One of the biggest things that's gone out there, and you hear all the time when you're comparing, you go to any baseball bat website, maple versus birch versus ash. What's the pros? What's the cons? Well, what you always hear about birch is it starts out soft and it gets hotter over time, right? I'm sure you've heard that. You've seen that
absolutely.
on websites all the time. That that is true about birch, but it's also true about maple and beech. They all get hotter over time because they're all what's considered, it's called diffuse porous wood or closed grain wood. And that's a specific type of wood versus ash. Ash is a ring porous wood. And this actually, the longer you use ash, the softer it gets. That's why, you get ash that flakes. So ash actually, it's a different style of wood. So you take that one out. But birch and maple and beech, they all, the more you use it, the more that the grain compresses and the hotter the bat gets. So compressed wood just means more density. We did density a second ago. So more density means hotter barrel, right? It's the same concept of why you bone rub a bat. It's why these baseball companies now, for their most premium bats, they bone rub them ahead of time because they're compressing that wood. And so, yeah, birch absolutely gets hotter over time, but so does maple and so does European beech. So I think it's just one of those things that people started saying, it started to pick up, and now everybody's like, oh yeah, birch gets hotter over time. But the same, nobody says about maple because you don't want to add it to the pros list because you got to differentiate these.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic bit of information in that, because that's exactly what I had always heard. Exactly. It was the simple, maple was hardest and birch, exactly right. Start off soft and just gets harder and harder. And we've used birch in the past and it true to it. Yeah, tremendous or whatever and stuff like that. But I didn't realize that maple and European had the same thing too. So that's why I love this. I love doing Dirtbag baseball talk, and man, I'm learning every day too, and it's fantastic. So keep going, brother. This is great information.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll get to stiffness in a second. Let's go over here to bending strength. So bending strength, this is actually one that birch outperforms beech, maple, and ash in. So bending strength, just if you think about a baseball bat, how much can you bend that baseball bat before it cracks? That's all it is. I mean, they don't obviously do a baseball bat, they do blocks of wood. How much can you bend that block of wood before it breaks, before it ruptures? So again, birch has great qualities here. It's a great wood. European beech is behind it, then maple, then ash. We like to think about bending strength a little bit with stiffness. So I'll kind of talk about both of those together because stiffness, I mean, it's also called, elasticity, how much the deflection point is. It's pretty obvious, how stiff is the bat, how much force can you put on that wood before it bends, right? So they kind of work together. You got bending strength, how much can you bend it before it breaks? And then stiffness, how much can you actually bend the baseball bat or the wood? Stiffness, I think this is like the underappreciated aspect of baseball bats. No one really talks about it, but it's been talked about in the golf world for a long time, right? And we're, down here in Texas, we get a lot of sunny weather. We're big golfers down here. So we're very familiar with stiffness, especially in terms of a golf club. What are you hearing now all the time? What's the big thing over the last 10 years? It's swing speed. It's how can you get your bat speed quicker and faster, right? It's why bat weights have been around forever. It's now you got these overload and underload trainers. You got all these coaches that are trying to teach you how to increase your swing speed. The same thing has been happening in golf for 20 years, right? Or 25 plus years. It's all about getting your club head speed faster. But the big difference is in golf, as you increase your swing speed, they increase the stiffness of your shaft, right? So once you start increasing that speed, you need to go to a stiffer shaft, because if your swing speed gets faster, your hands get out in front of the end of the club. And by the time you get your hands to the ball, your club's way back here, right? Your club head's way back here. So the big difference is in baseball bats, you can't just make a stiffer baseball bat. There's no such thing, right? You can't just pick a new baseball bat and just say, okay, I need one that's stiffer here. Because wood has inherent qualities. You can't just swap them in and out with the same wood. You can't just use a maple bat and be like, I want a stiffer maple bat. Maple doesn't get stiffer or more flexible. It is what it is. It's 12.62 modulars of elasticity. So our working theory is that this is why birch has really taken off over the past 10 years, is because as people have focused on swing speed, Birch outperforms maple and ash in terms of stiffness. It's a stiffer bat. So as people's hands are getting faster, Birch is a great bat to be using because it helps the end of the barrel catch up with their hands as it's getting through the zone, right? So that's our theory on why Birch has taken off. It's not because it's got a good combination of density and getting hotter and flexibility. We think it's just because as guys are swinging faster, they can get that Birch barrel to catch up with their hands on time because everybody's working on swing speed, bat speed. Well, European Beech, as you can see here, is even higher in terms of stiffness than Birch, maple, or ash. So we truly believe that as these guys continue to increase their bat speed, which they're going to continue to do, that European Beech is the perfect bat because it's got that, if you think about, sorry, I got somebody at my front door, I guess.
No, that's all right.
As you increase your hand speed, you got that barrel that's going to catch up. If you think about it in the golf world, it's the stiff or the extra stiff shaft for a golf club. So that's a big factor that we don't think is talked about a lot, but we truly believe it's why Birch has taken off the way that it has. We believe that as you can see here, it outperforms Birch in terms of stiffness. So that's really it. I mean, there's other criteria that make wood what it is. But in terms of the ones that are prevalent and relevant to a baseball bat, these are the four. It's density, it's dent resistance, it's bending strength, and it's stiffness. And if you take all four of those and you find what's the best combination, European Beech, we feel outperforms Birch, maple, and ash, and really any other wood species out there for these criteria.
Yeah, and I think this is just a perfect segue lead into what you and I've talked about when I asked about what are some of the common, not questions but almost replies you have to give to customers when you see them purchase bats or they are breaking bats or whatever, and at the odd time when they do it or it's just not a right fit for them. I think it's now even my own head gets wrapped around it a lot clearer and makes more sense of it is you're right. It's really getting the right model of bat for who you are as a person. And I think that's another thing, Lance, that we just don't really appreciate enough. I mean, it's every dad and son and whatever. And of course, a mom, not being mean or derogatory in any way, shape or form or whatever. And that probably that much less knowledge again, overall, in the fact of taking little Johnny or Henry to the store and oh yeah, look at that big old barrel there. That's what you want to be swinging and stuff like that, right? I want to be the next Vladimir Guerrero or Aaron Judge, Poppy back in our day, whatever. Do you find that a lot? The uncertainty of really what bat I need, the 271, the 243. What is it? How do you find that?
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's amazing you bring that up because it's the biggest misconception that we feel on our website. On our website we exclusively sell our bats currently through our website. You can track sales and buy the model very easily. And we only have 5 models. We do that because rather than just offering all kinds of customization, we really want to perfect our model of baseball bat and really dive into what makes each model different from the others and really differentiate it and maximize the capabilities of each baseball bat model. Well, on our site, same thing that you mentioned, everybody goes to what we call the max power, which is our most end loaded bat. And it's funny because, the guys that we created that baseball bat for are guys who are, 6'6", got amazing hand speed, practice all the time, basically you got to be professional level to be using that baseball bat. But it's our most popular. It's our highest selling baseball bat because, like you mentioned, people see max power. They see power. That's all they want. They want that big barrel because they think bigger barrel means more home runs. Go back to the beginning of this podcast and what we talk about. What makes a baseball exit a bat faster? It's the density, and it's the swing speed, and it's how you connect with the swing spot. Those are the 3 factors, right? So, okay, yeah, density, you want something that's more end loaded because more end loaded means you've got more density in that barrel, right? But that's only one aspect. if you can't swing that bat through the zone fast enough, you're overcompensating. You've got too much barrel and you got too little swing speed. So you're probably not hitting the sweet spot. So that's the third factor, right? Because you're not controlling that bat. It's got this huge barrel, super end loaded. You're not connecting exactly. So yeah, you've got one aspect of it. You've got the density, you've got the end loaded big barrel, but you're sacrificing swing speed and you're sacrificing your sweet spot, actually being able to control the bat. So we try always to recommend people to swing a lighter baseball bat and a shorter baseball bat, and one that's not as end loaded. One of our top performing models from what we've seen for the average baseball player, the guy who's just going to the store, wants to buy a baseball. I mean, not like an average baseball player,
Yes,
just like
yes.
anybody, just anybody who goes to the store. If you're walking, if you aren't the guy who's practicing, professionally, if this isn't your profession, you shouldn't be buying the bat that was made for somebody who's putting in 80 hours a week, and is at their full, they've reached their growth spurt. They're 6'6", they're huge. They work on swing speed all day, every day. It's their livelihood depends on it. Don't get that bat. That's meant for somebody else. Just because they swing, it doesn't mean that you need to be swinging. You swing the bat that helps you perform best, because as you grow, as you get better, yeah, you'll be able to go down that line and start to get more of an end loaded bat. But our balanced bat has got a great combination of good barrel size, but it's not so end loaded. So you're going to be able to increase your swing speed, and it's a very easy bat to control. So you'll be able to hit that sweet spot a lot better. And it's I always go back to golf, because I think about things in the kind of this golf where you see these guys that are 70, 80 years old on the golf course, and they got this slow, very controlled swing, but they hit it right down the middle every single time, and it's always in the exact same spot because they got so much control of what they can do. It's the same thing. You don't need to get this super stiff, super end loaded bat to control your bat and get it to perform the way that you want. We make high quality bats. You just get something that you can control on your own and that you can really maximize the capability of. And to this point, we're releasing something on our website here in the next couple of weeks where you can actually go through, you can take a quiz and you can find your baseball bat, and it asks you a bunch of questions about your age, because age is a huge factor that nobody talks about in terms of what length of a bat you should be using. It's the biggest indicator, in terms of your bat length. Where you hit in the lineup, what's most important to you, big barrel, bigger swing speed, what kind of knob you like. And it's about 10 questions long. And it's just, you don't have to end up getting that bat, but it's to really show you, all right, answer these questions, and we're going to show you what bat that we think is going to perform best for you. And then it's up to you. You decide if you want to go with that bat or not. And people just don't look at it that way. They say, I want, like you mentioned, I want the biggest barrel. I want that Tatis bat. I want that Mike Trout bat. I want that Aaron Judge bat. I mean, those guys are the best of the best of the best. At some point, if you use the correct bat at this point in your life, you might be able to get to there, but you shouldn't be using that bat already. Use that bat as something that you're working towards. For right now, use the bat that helps you perform best.
I love that. Because that eliminates me asking the next question or whatever. Now, because I know time's limited and stuff like that for you for this episode. We can always come back and do many, many more or whatever. And that we're looking forward to doing many, many more too. But I love what you just said there, in the fact that it's almost like a glove builder, like Glove 44 or whatever, 44 gloves, how you can create your own glove based off of what your imagination is, and then see it and look at it and really say, hey, you know what? Is this a fit for me or not? You're doing it in a bat now. I love that, because I think, another misconception, not a misconception, but I think another issue is the fact of, like we're saying, end loaded. What is end loaded? A bigger barrel, smaller handle. What are we really talking about? And that's more or less what you are talking about. I think you're going to be talking about the differences in what a 271 model, the standard models, right? The 243, the 271.
Yeah.
That's great that you're doing that. I think that is absolutely genius. As dirtbags, you got to jump all over that. because like you said, it's Lance and Pete are kind of behind the screen. You don't see them or whatever, and that they're guiding you and helping you, educating you, but yet it's you educating yourself and empowering yourself through Mind Baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we come out with this quiz, it doesn't say anything about end loaded anywhere on there, because to your point, what does that even mean? You know, what does that mean? We ask basic questions about who you are as a baseball player, you know, and what you like in a baseball bat, what feels good in a baseball bat. And then we recommend the bat for you with just basic terminology, none of this stuff that requires a lot of knowledge. Because let's say it's a guy who's, like you said, whose mom wants to buy him a baseball bat. Well, she can answer these questions about them. That's what we created this quiz for. You know, let's get 10 questions and really recommend 1, 2, 3 baseball bats that are going to be best for you. Because the key is, like you mentioned, it's about finding the best baseball bat for you. You don't need to be swinging the best baseball bat for Fernando Tatis. You know, you don't need to be swinging the best baseball bat for Aaron Judge. You got to be swinging the best baseball bat for you. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to buy the best baseball bat for them. And that's why we're creating this quiz on our website. It'll launch in the next couple weeks here. But it's about really, hey, you know, I know you see max power. I know you see super end loaded. You see the power bars all the way full, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the most power out of this, you know.
For sure. One thing I definitely want to talk about, and I think your dad and I spoke briefly about it last week again, or last week's episode, but it is so valuable because in the market, the uniqueness of you, for anybody out there watching that isn't an adult, is buying for a youth, buying for your child, is the fact that you guys can actually create the same youth bat as adult bat because of your Lays, the Manelli family that you talked about. Mm-hmm. Just briefly touch on that before we wrap this up, if you don't mind. I think that's super unique in that you can do that.
Yeah, there's 2 parts to that. You know, one, in terms of the criteria of wood that we use, all of our wood follows basically the MLB standard criteria. We don't differentiate whether it's going to be MLB grade and then adult grade and then youth grade and then fungo grade, which is just the worst wood, right? Everything is got the same moisture content. It's got the same slope of grain criteria. Every bat is manufactured the same. And so, you know, it's not like everybody else does it. Again, it's going back to this. We haven't been doing this for 100 years, so we're not ingrained to do it the same way that everybody else is. We say, all right, this is the criteria. Every bat has to be made following these criteria, whether it be a pro model bat or whether it is the fungo. They all have to adhere to the certain criteria. You're not just gonna shelve off the worst wood for somebody else, right? The reason that we're able to do that, and this goes to your point of why nobody else can, is because most baseball bat manufacturers are just baseball bat manufacturers, right? So those billets come in, those blocks of wood come in, and they have to use those. Whether it matches, you know, they don't buy those billets based on this kind of preset criteria. They buy billets that are X wide and preferably a certain amount of weight. And then they come in and then they have to grade them. All right, what's the slope of grain? You know, what's the moisture content? What are all these factors in there? And they have to use everything, right? So they have to use, of course, their best billets are going to go to the MLBs. That makes sense, right? You would think that the MLB guys have to use the best stuff. The worst stuff goes to the fungos because, you know, it's a little skinny fungo. They're selling it for $60. Whatever, you know, the coach is going to buy hundreds of these through his lifetime. So let's give him the worst wood that we've got. It doesn't matter, right? We have to use the wood. Some guys like Louisville Slugger make, you know, they use some of their worst wood on little souvenir bats, yes. You know, like some of that no one's going to use, but they want to just walk around and hold, or they can use for gifts and presents, right? Most baseball bat companies or almost all baseball bat companies have to use all of that wood that comes in. Because, like I mentioned, we work with Manelli, and they are the largest paintbrush handle manufacturer and rifle stock manufacturer in the entire world. They've got all these places that they can take that wood that doesn't hit pro level criteria, right? So we said, this is our criteria to use on baseball bats. Everything else you guys use for whatever else you need, because you don't need that kind of slope of grain or moisture content when you make a paintbrush handle. You just have to make a paintbrush handle, right? You got to make a rifle stock. You got to they make a couple other things. And so that is the big difference between what we are able to do and what other people are able to do, and why our youth bats all are the same criteria that our pro grade bats are. It's all the same wood. It's all the same slope of grain. It's all the same moisture content. It's the same every single time. Whether you buy the drop 10 or the drop 5, or you buy, the brand new 34, 33 that somebody in the pros are going to be using. So yeah, it's a great point. And it's something that we're able to do, not because, we make baseball bats better than anybody, just because we have another avenue for those billets to go to when they aren't being used for baseball bats.
Yeah, that's a fantastic relationship, and it's so vital to your overall business. And there's no question about it. So, Dirtbags, you know what? Hey, if you're not getting empowered, you're not getting excited to at least look up mindbaseball.com. Hey, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's the old take the horse to water, can't make them drink situation or whatever and that. But I know you are, because I know you're dedicated. I know you want the right roadmap to your baseball success, and that's what we always try to provide you with. We're lucky, as I always say, to have just great connections in our world and friends in our nation, like Lance and Pete and Mind Baseball. I'm excited to be swinging my fungo here real soon, and even more excited now to know that I can feel young again or whatever. Now this whole body can feel, it has a little bit of pop in that bat, and I can feel young again. So I'm excited about that. But as always, buddy, you know what? Let the Dirtbags know where they can find you on social media, the website, where they can lock and load in with Mind Baseball.
Yeah, on social, find us at Mind Baseball. Facebook at Mind Baseball, or if you want to go to our website, www.mindbaseball.com. You can see all of our models. You can read more about our company. And if you want, you can buy a baseball bat.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Dirtbags. Thanks for sending in those questions. It's great questions, and send them in directly to Lance and Pete. I mean, you know what? I hope you feel a lot more comfortable with the two of them. I'm sure you do, because you just see they're baseball dudes at the end of the day. They're good guys, just like we're all trying to be in Dirtbag Baseball Nation, and pulling for each other, living the right life, living the best baseball life that we can, and trying to help, as like I said before, educate and empower and keep this understanding of how fun it is to be involved in this game in any way, shape, or form, from coaching to talking on a podcast like we do, to, Lance and Pete making baseball bats, but not just making baseball bats, digging in deep and being dirtbags in that world or whatever, and really having the pride and honesty and the integrity to dig deep, to make sure that they know when it goes out the door into your hands, by God, it's a good product. It's a good product that you're going to become a part of their family, just like you're a part of the Dirtbag Nation. So on that note, brother, say hi to Dad for me and stuff like that. I know we're going to see you here again real soon. It's always great talking with you both, and be well, stay safe, continue to grow. And hey, you know what? Let the questions roll, let the bats roll. Life is good, my man.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Kirk. It was great getting to talk to you a little bit more about this. Hopefully, we didn't bore people too much, but it's interesting stuff for me. If anybody wants, you can reach out and we can talk about it in depth for as long as you have the time.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about, brother. Just talking baseball. What a life. What a great life to live, man, for sure. So, Dirtbags, you know what time of the week it is. It's time to get up, get after it, and get dirty.